أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum everyone. It's an honor to be here in Dearborn, here at the library, and having these programs for this month. And basically what my intention was is to make the class this into more of a class setting so that there can be question and answers, so that there can be more interactive session. The goal, obviously, with the month of Ramadan is to come out of this month a much better person than we came into this month. We don't want to be the same person that we were before. But more important than that, what happens is sometimes when you're trying to make yourself better, sometimes you do that, but you do it for a little while. You do it for a period of time, but then we go back to our old ways. So how do we get there, and how do we make it stick? How do we stay there? For us, Ramadan it's like the beginning. This is like when everything starts for us and what we can accomplish and what we can do to better ourselves. It's kind of like people when they have a New Year's, when they celebrate their New Year's, they make New Year's resolutions. At the beginning of the year, they say, you know what, this year they get so happy, they celebrate, it's just 2013. And they're going to be celebrating and partying and very happy. And they say, you know what, now that it's a brand new year, I'm going to be a brand new person. And I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to make myself better in this way, that way, and things like that. But then some reality sets in that after a few weeks, they stop doing those things that they were planning to do. They get away from those things that they thought that they were going to keep doing. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason when sometimes we can't be consistent. It's great to have that motivation and that energy, but that's not all, that's the goal. Ramadan, it gives you this kind of spiritual energy, you're on a spiritual high, but the goal is not just let me get that great spiritual motivation, then a few weeks after Ramadan, then I'm back to doing some things that I used to do. I'm back to listening to people backbiting. I'm back to slander and accusing people. I'm back to doing all kinds of things that I had left behind for a while in the month of Ramadan. So when before the month of Ramadan, we set our goals. The most important thing is to set the goals, and set goals that you can reach. And then sticking to those goals after is probably even more important than that. There's so much emphasis about taqwa, about akhlaq. There's so much emphasis about character, about piety, and it's mentioned in the Quran. Just to give you an idea of what we'll be talking about. So if, let's say that I have, and everyone does have some character flaws, some things that they can improve. I want to improve, for example, this area of my behavior. Let's say, for example, I'm a person, I talk too much. Right? I talk a lot, and sometimes I end up saying things that I shouldn't say because I'm talking too much. Or let's say that I'm a person who I'm lazy. Sometimes I could be doing something productive, but I say, no, I want to sleep a little bit more. I'm not motivated to do things. So these are some of the little things that we can work on in order to make ourselves more complete human beings, because that is the goal that Allah has set for us. Why did Allah create us in the first place? He wants us to have this goal to reach some kind of level of perfection. In order to reach some kind of level of perfection, in order for us to become better, then first of all we have to do a few things. Number one, we have to identify what our problems are. We can't fix any problem if we don't know what it is. If I don't know that I'm lazy, then how can I fix this problem of being lazy? If I don't accept that I listen to backbiting, how can I fix that problem in the first place? You know, they have these programs where people who have, for example, drug problems or alcohol problems, they'll put them in a program and they have some steps that they have to take in order to become clean or in order to get out of this state of where they're addicted to this. So the very first thing that they have to do is learn or realize that, hey, I actually have a problem. They have to not be in denial. They have to realize that I do have some things that I can work on. I do have an area that I can fix. If they're a person who says, you know what, I'm perfect, I'm fine, I don't have any problems, I can quit whenever I want to. Or I just do this sometimes, I don't have to do this. If they have that kind of mentality, then usually what happens is they stay like that. They stay at that same level. They don't progress. They're not able to. So if we want to better ourselves, step number one, we have to say, okay, look in the mirror. Do I have problems? Just be realistic. Let's look and talk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have this problem. How do I fix it? How do I go about making this not an issue for me? He set forth this whole month where the opportunities are tremendous. Now, sometimes people, they think that, and they say, like, for example, I'm sure you've heard hadith and sayings about how shaitan is locked away. And how this is a time where believers, they can really prosper, they can really be successful. The idea of shaitan being locked away doesn't mean that me as a human being, I can't do anything wrong during the month of Ramadan. Shaitan's locked in a closet somewhere, so alhamdulillah, whatever I do, I'm going to be okay. It doesn't work like that. That's not a reality. The reality is that it starts from ourselves. It starts from me realizing that this is something that I need to fix. Sometimes people, they come and they think that, you know what, I do realize that I have this problem. I do this too much, I do that too much, and I want to fix this problem. So they're looking for some magic potion dua that they can sprinkle on themselves, and then in the morning when they wake up, voila, oh, I don't do bad things anymore. I'm now a perfect mu'min. This is not a reality. If this was the case, then there wouldn't be, we wouldn't have to strive, we wouldn't have to try in order to reach our goals, in order to be successful. There wouldn't be any bad people. Everybody sprinkle the good dua dust on you and voila, you're perfect mu'min. So what does this mean? It means that you have to put effort. It means that you have to try. There is not a single dua, a single thing that will magically turn around what your intentions are, how you want your life to be. That doesn't mean, don't misunderstand, it doesn't mean that du'as are not extremely powerful. Yes, there's du'as that are so powerful that they can, what they can do would be mind-blowing. That's absolutely, it's true. However, when Allah intends for us to better ourselves, then there's a way that we have to do that. We have to take that initiative. If Allah created us, and He wants us to become as good as human beings that we can be, if He does that for us and we don't take that effort, then what is the reward in that? Right? It makes complete sense to everybody. You work hard, you get the reward for the work that you did. Let's say, for example, someone, they say that, you know what, I just want the reward and I don't want to do the work. What kind of value does that have? So somebody says, you know what, instead of going to medical school, I'm going to make dua and inshallah I'm going to be successful. You have to still do work. you have to still study. Or what if that award was given to that person just like that without them doing any work? Well, that's one surgeon I don't want to visit. That's one person who's not operating on me. You're getting this without any kind of work. You didn't work to be able to attain this degree. It means that you have to do it with effort. Each person, they have to work on their things themselves. Now, when a group of students went to visit Iran, and they went to visit a lot of the ulama, and when they got a chance to visit Ayatollah Bahjat, rahmatullah alayh, who was this supremely great scholar, mystic, arif, somebody who worked very hard in order to be able to reach very high levels of spirituality. It's always good to look at these kind of examples, and I love to use these kind of examples, especially of Ayatollah Bahjat, even though now he's passed away, but because I had experience with seeing firsthand, what is a person like this like? Sometimes, we think that somebody is ma'soom, or somebody is like the imams, there's such a high level that we could never be like that. So the imam is perfect, he couldn't make any mistakes. That's a different topic, but the point is that when you see people who are not imams, who are not prophets, and they were people who decided at one point that, you know what, I'm going to make some change in my life, or I'm going to work on something, and they actually do that, and you see, like, wow, this is what a human being can be like. It's really amazing. When you see that he was just a normal kid at one time, doing things that normal kids do, and decided that this is a path that I'm going to take, and I'm going to make it an important part of my life. And then after doing this over and over again, and taking this path with guidance, of course, Allah blesses you in so many ways that you reach a whole nother level. But going back to what was said at this gathering, so there's some people that went on a visit, and maybe there were about 20, 30 people, and so they had heard all of these things about Ayatollah Bahjat. He's performed this miracle, that miracle. One time there was a drought for several months, and he recited and led the dua for rain, and it just rained. Just like that. When somebody listens to Allah all of their life, what is it for Allah? Is that difficult for Allah? I mean, the word difficult doesn't have any meaning for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He can provide at that instant. And when you see this kind of thing, sometimes it helps to make you, like Prophet Musa says, "Hatta tatma'inna qalbi," so that my heart becomes a little bit more firm. It increases my belief. It makes me say, it's amazing. This is the capacity that any human being can achieve. Any one of us can be like this. So they had heard all of these tremendous stories about all these phenomenal karamat and these phenomenal acts that Ayatollah Bahjat had performed, and about how much knowledge he had, how he said that when he would look at people, he would see what they look like on the inside. Right? Because every action that you do, it manifests into something, it looks like something. For example, when it talks about, in the month of Ramadan, it talks about ruku, just the ruku and sajdas and certain ibadats, they become like a tree in paradise. They become like this, what kind of tree? It says that if you were to ride on a horse for 100 years under this tree, or for so many years under this tree, you will still be under the shade of this tree. It shows the magnitude of one small act of ibadah. So someone who's done all of these types of things, for example, throughout their lifetime, consistently, and not going back They wanted to know, what can we do? We live in America. It's not easy over here. They explained that we live in a place where there's fitna, a lot of places there's all kinds of corruption. I can't just watch TV or go on the internet and everything and it's completely safe and clean. So I have to be so careful. People don't dress properly. People don't have the same values that I have as a Muslim all the time. Maybe to me, the what to eat, certain foods, I have a certain value about what I'm going to eat. I'm not going to eat, double Big Mac from McDonald's, unless it's in some Muslim country maybe. So I have a different value system than what the next person may have. So when my approach is different, and the way that I look at things is different, it makes it more difficult for me. Maybe than, say, someone who's living in an environment where they're surrounded by positive people fasting. When we're at the Ramadan, if you're living in a Muslim country, everybody's fasting. It's very easy to be fasting. In fact, if you're not fasting, you're going to look like the oddball. Whereas here, it's like, what's your problem? Why aren't you eating lunch today? You don't want to have food today? And you have to explain to people sometimes because they don't know. It's a different atmosphere. So they were asking, in this society where we live in, with all of these problems that we have, we want to have that kind of spiritual growth where we reach high levels of spirituality, we feel good about ourselves. We want to get to that place too. So what do we have to do? He said to them, Gunah nakum. Don't commit sin. If you want to reach the highest place in spirituality, the highest level of being close to Allah, he said, don't do one thing. That's it. Do not commit a single sin. He said, every time you commit one sin, it knocks you back 1,000 steps. So you have to think about it in your life. Whether you're younger or older, in your lifetime. Whether you've lived for many years or you, inshallah, will live for many years. Every good thing that you do, if you want to calculate it, just like Kiram and Katibin, these angels are calculating all of our actions. Every good thing we do, let's say they add points on the scale. Okay, you made salat on time, you get this many points. Wow, you gave in charity, you get this many points. You helped someone in need, you get this many points. You made salatul layl, you made the night prayer, wow, you get so many points. You smiled at your mu'min brother, so many points. You were kind to your brother. So you do all of these good things, and it's like you're racking up all of these points, and they have value. And then suddenly, we commit one single sin. And it knocks us back. It's as if we didn't do all of this, now we're starting over again. A single sin. One backbite. Was it that juicy, the flesh of my brother, that I needed to say that? Was it that important for me to fix my tongue to make that accusation? And then all of these good deeds that I did do, it's as if I'm starting again. You know, they used to have this game. I don't know if they still have it. When I was little, they used to have it. And when we were kids, we used to play it. It's called Chutes and Ladders. So it's all this game, and you go up the ladder sometimes, and it takes you like closer to the top space where you want to get to. And sometimes there's a little slide, and if you fall on that box, then you slide back down to a lower number. And it's kind of like that. Sometimes you do some things and it shoots you way up. And it gives you really close to where your goal is. And then sometimes, do something that's not good. What does it do? It sends us straight back down. Sends us back to the beginning. So I tell people, as I say, nobody likes to be a gerbil, right? You don't want to be a gerbil or hamster. Right? You just put them on the little round thing and they just run and run and run. And they're just going in the same place. They're not moving forward, left or right. They're just going in the same place. Well, that's what we become when we don't move forward. So the reason why I was talking about what we're going to do after Ramadan, before Ramadan, in the very beginning of the month, talking about the consistency afterwards, is because if we will gain something no matter what. The worst person in the month of Ramadan, they're going to take some benefit and get some blessing. That's a given. They will receive some kind of blessing, inshallah. But after this month, what do we do next? How do we move forward? What do we take from that? How do we stay consistent? That's what's really important. Because we can look back at our life and say, how many Ramadans did we experience? 10, 20, 30, so many Ramadans that we've been through. Are we getting that much closer every single time to Allah? If the scale is all the way up here, every time we're launching ourselves that much forward, or we're doing the gerbil dance, and we're just going in circles. How do we get to that point where we're that focused? What the ulama of akhlaq, what they explain is that in order to do anything as far as spiritual development, I want to become a better person. In order to do that, there's one first initial step that I need to do. And that is that I need to make a firm decision. I need to make a real decision. I can't just say, I approach this month and say, inshallah, I'm going to do good things. Inshallah, I'm going to do some ibadat. Maybe one of the nights of Qadr, I'll stay up. I can't approach it like lackadaisical, just, whatever happens. I have to make a decision that this is what my goal is. Allah had a goal in creating us human beings. Part of that goal is that we can achieve a perfection, like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in order to achieve that goal, we have to decide that that is what's important to us. Sometimes you find a person, when they make a firm decision, they can be so successful. Even a person who's completely not even Muslim, they're atheists. They're not even believing in Allah. Yet, they're focused on, for example, I'm going to sell this product. I'm going to do do good at school. They make some kind of firm decision and they can be successful at that. This all depends on what we decide ourselves. When you make a decision, you can be successful. So this month of Ramadan, before it starts, you need to do two things, so we mentioned so far. Number one, I need to look in the mirror and see, do I have some things that I need to work on? Right? I need to look and see in reality, are there areas that I need to work on and better myself? And after I realize that, okay, I can do better this, I can do better this. For example, I have so many prayers that I miss, I need to make those up. Once I realize the things that I need to work on, I need to write those down. I need to work on, for example, making up my prayers. Or I need to work on praying on time. I need to work on avoiding conversations where they're talking about other people. Whatever it is that I need to work on, I make a list for myself. Then I approach and I make a decision and say, I'm ready to do this. Now, this decision will be successful if a person tries and they take this step towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will take the steps towards them. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ud'uni astajib lakum. Ask Him. He says, ask me. I will grant you. I will help you. You take that step forward and you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will help us, whatever it is that we want to achieve. Granted that we're serious about that. So, when they gave and this advice that was given about staying away from sin, it was also said, Allama Tabatabai, he also answered someone when they asked them, they gave them a scenario. They said, let's say for example, a person doesn't do, for example, any nafilah prayers. They don't do any of the extra prayers. They don't do any taqiyat. After they pray, they don't even recite any extra du'as or the taqiyat, the prayers and du'as and dhikr that usually follow after certain prayers. They don't do that. They don't do any night prayer. They don't give any charity. They don't do any mustahabat at all whatsoever. Right? Mustahabat are the little extra things that we can do, not the mandatory things. So they don't do any of these things. They're asking Allah. So is this a person who can ever achieve that really high level of spirituality? He said, absolutely. And if you think about it, let's take two people and put them side by side. One person, person A, they do all of these extra things. They give charity, they do the night prayer, they read lots of Islamic books, they go to majalis all the time, they do all of these good things, but they mix them up with doing all of these sins sometimes too. Every once in a while they do this sin, every once in a while they do that, they do that. They look at something they shouldn't, they listen to something they shouldn't. Their tongue says something they shouldn't. So they're doing all these good things, but they're mixing them up with these negative things. So they're doing the gerbil dance. They're going and coming back. They're just going in a circle. It becomes the classic story that you all know about the tortoise and the hare. The other person, they're not doing anything extra, but they're only doing the bare minimum, but they don't take any steps backwards. They're moving slowly. Yes, I mean, Salatul Layl it's one of the things that was wajib on the Prophet. He would make it all of the time, every night, consistently. It's something that's extremely recommended, and it pushes you up that spiritual ladder so much. But let's say someone, they're not even doing that, so they're moving up the ladder, they're moving really, really slowly. They're taking baby steps forward. Little teeny steps. But the difference between the person B and person A is person B is not taking any steps backwards. This has more value in Allah's eyes than the person who tainted themselves with sin. You know how you buy a fresh, brand new pair of sneakers, a brand new clothes, nice new shirt, you like it so much, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to look so good in this. Can't wait till such and such a wedding comes up so I can show everybody how good I look. That beautiful clothing, shoes, whatever it is, when it's brand new, after you wear it a few times, it's never the same as if when you first bought it. As that first day when it still had the tags, when it was unworn, it's never going to be the same. You can wash it and clean it, but it will never be the same as when you first got it. So we have, our souls are like that. They're pure, clean, but sometimes we taint them. Sometimes we mark up our hearts with this ink of sin. And even though you can do istighfar, it's not the same as if I didn't do that. One of my teachers once asked a class, can any of you be ma'soom the way that our imams and Prophet are free from sin? or infallible sometimes translated. Can any of you be like this? And everyone's shaking their head. Obviously not, because I already committed so X amount of wrong deeds, so it's too late for me to even think about being that pure. What he said was, even if you can't be in that sense the way that the Imams were, why is it not possible that someone can say, from today forward, I will never commit this sin again? Is that not possible? From today till the end of the time that Allah blesses me with breath, I will never commit, for example, this sin of backbiting ever again. This is possible. When you decide and make that firm decision, Allah will help you. Allah will guide us. And we can stay away from these things if we want to. There's one more part about developing ourselves and making ourselves better people. The more a person works on making themselves a better person, the more development that they have, this also means they have more to lose. Now, does that mean that I say, well, you know what, I'm just going to stay in the shallow water, I don't want to ever swim to the deep end, just because maybe I might not swim too well over there. It's going to be harder. So I'll always stay, in the water to my knees on the shallow end. No, sometimes you have to get in the water. When a person does these good deeds and they develop themselves and they move, it's like climbing a mountain. If you're at the bottom of the mountain and your good deeds and you're getting close to Allah and doing good things and making yourself better, let's say you fall from 5 feet. You're climbing the mountain, you fall from 5 feet, you roll down a little bit, you get a few bumps and bruises. You'll be okay. Inshallah, you'll survive. Let's say that you were doing better. You are actually doing these extra mustahabat. You're staying completely away from sin. You've been doing it for such a long time. Now you get to the middle part of the mountain. Now if you fall from there, you're probably going to get hurt. And the same goes if you're a person who for many years and you've been very consistent and spiritually developing yourself, you're near the top of the mountain. If you fall from there, you're probably not going to live to tell anybody about it. So the more success that you have in getting close to Allah, then it's more that you have to lose. That 1,000 steps backwards means a lot more to that person who's really serious and is trying. But the benefits that they have are also a lot more. So in order to try to focus and stay away from sin, one of the most basic things that we need to do is understand what they are. How do I stay away from sin if I'm not even sure that this is a sin? How do I stay away from backbiting if I'm not sure, is this really backbiting? Is it not backbiting? How do I stay away from it? How do I stay away from this if I don't know what it is? So it becomes necessary for me to learn what are these sins, especially the ones that pertain to me. If I know I have a problem with something, doing something, I need to make sure I understand what Islam says about it. Does Islam say that it's bad, it's good, it's too much? There are certain times, certain instances, for example, where backbiting is acceptable. Inshallah, we'll talk about that. But if I don't understand that I'm always going to be in this kind of doubt, I don't know am I doing something wrong or if I'm doing something right. I can't balance my checkbook of sins because I don't know what did I do. Am I doing good? Am I not doing so good? I just kind of move forward haphazard. So in order for me to make sure that I'm doing these things, okay, I made the firm decision. You know what? This month, I'm going to make sure that from now on, for example, I'm going to not miss my Fajr prayers. Or I'm going to make them on time. I make this firm decision that from now on, so I have to work on that. But it helps when I understand what this means as far as Islam goes. I remember I was explaining one time, this one hadith, we're having a discussion about hijab. And some of these people in the discussion, some wore hijab, some didn't wear hijab. And they had their reasons for why they thought that it was important or not as important or difficult or whatever the case was. Understanding what it says as far as what Islam says about it is helpful in a person making conscious decisions. Right? You don't want to just be deciding things just because. It helps when you understand more about that issue. So some of the hadiths that were read and discussed in this gathering were about when the Prophet went to Mi'raj. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went to Mi'raj and he saw people, and I'm paraphrasing the hadith, but he saw women with their hair, with their brains exposed and boiling. Their heads boiling. And I said, these are younger students. Why? What is that? What happened? What happened to them? Why are they like that? Well, these are people that used to not wear hijab. It puts into a different light when you understand sometimes the consequences of an action, or why, or you understand more about it, or why it's wrong, or that there were people who would scratch their faces with their nails. These were people who used to backbite. So looking and understanding, it puts into perspective, I don't want to be one of those people. Anybody would think with a sane mind. I don't want to be one of those people like that, ever. So then it helps me in my goal, or in my effort as I'm trying to stay away from this. As I'm trying to make myself better. I understand that, you know what, these have consequences. This is what this is about. So what my goal is, inshallah, or our goal is, inshallah, during the time that I'm here, it's a spiritual journey this month of Ramadan. And we all, inshallah, decided that we want to make ourselves better people. We have areas that we want to better. What I hope to do is be a tool to bring these hadith and ayahs of Quran which illustrate and explain the message that Allah wants us to understand, in order to put into context what these things do to us or how they affect us. So by understanding about these different akhlaqi traits, or these different character flaws, inshallah, that will help us in the process as we're self-developing and self-building in order to stay away from these things, inshallah. So inshallah, I hope that all of you have a successful Ramadan. And I pray that inshallah you decide to make a firm decision to move forward in your self-development and take it very seriously. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Imam of our time himself, will help you. Inshallah, may you all become the A'wan of the Ansar of Hujjat ibn al-Hassan, Imam al-Mahdi. Salawat. Sometimes we can't be consistent. It's great to have that motivation and that energy, but that's not all, that's the goal. Ramadan, it gives you this kind of spiritual energy. You're on a spiritual high, but the goal is not just let me get that great spiritual motivation. Then a few weeks after Ramadan, then I'm back to doing some things that I used to do. I'm back to listening to people backbiting. I'm back to slander and accusing people. I'm back to doing all kinds of things that I had left behind for a while in the month of Ramadan. So when we before the month of Ramadan, we set our goals. The most important thing is to set the goals, and set goals that you can reach. And then sticking to those goals after is probably even more important than that. Here at the library and having these programs for this month. And basically what my intention was is to make the class, this into more of a class setting so that there can be question and answers, so that there can be more interactive session. The goal, obviously, with the month of Ramadan is to come out of this month a much better person than we came into this month. We don't want to be the same person that we were before. But more important than that, what happens is sometimes when you're trying to make yourself better, sometimes you do that, but you do it for a little while. You do it for a period of time, but then we go back to our old ways. So how do we get there, and how do we make it stick? How do we stay there? For us, there's so much emphasis about taqwa, about akhlaq. There's so much emphasis about character, about piety, and it's mentioned in the Quran. Just to give you an idea of what we'll be talking about. So if, let's say that I have, and everyone does have some character flaws, some things that they can improve. I want to improve, for example, this area of my behavior. Let's say, for example, I'm a person, I talk too much. Right? I talk a lot, and sometimes I end up saying things that I shouldn't say because I'm talking too much. Or let's say that I'm a person who I'm lazy. Sometimes I could be doing something productive, but I say, no, I want to sleep a little bit more. I'm not motivated to do things. So these are some of the little things. Ramadan it's like the beginning. This is like when everything starts for us and what we can accomplish and what we can do to better ourselves. It's kind of like people when they have a New Year's, when they celebrate their New Year's, they make New Year's resolutions. At the beginning of the year, they say, you know what, this year they get so happy, they celebrate, it's just 2013. And they're going to be celebrating and partying and very happy. And they say, you know what, now that it's a brand new year, I'm going to be a brand new person. And I want to change this, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to make myself better in this way, that way, and things like that. But then some reality sets in that after a few weeks, they stop doing those things that they were planning to do. They get away from those things that they thought that they were going to keep doing. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason when أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's an honor to be here in Dearborn.